Hey, this is Brandon with Pickleball Effects. Today we're going to take a look at the new Pursuit Max series by Engage. This is supposed to be a more budget-friendly option that plays comparable to the Pursuit Pros. The Pursuit Pros retail for $260. With discounts, they're about $210. These retail for $200, and with my discount code 20effect, brings it down to $160. So it's a much more palatable price, but the big question is, how does this compare to the Pursuit Pros? If they do play similar, then you might be able to save a lot of money by going this route. When we look at how these paddles are made, they look very similar to the Pursuit Pro line. Main difference being they're using a more cost-effective carbon fiber material. It has a little different grit. They call it enhanced carbon friction, but it still has the black polymer core. It still has some foam injection up here near the sweet spot of the paddle. So there's a lot of similarities, but with the main difference being that facing material. The Max series is only going to be available in 2 models. So they have the EX 6.0, which is their standard shape with the short handle. And then they have their MX 6.0, which is their elongated shape with the longer handle. And these are both 16 millimeters, whereas the Pursuit Pro line has these same shapes, but available in 16 and in 13 millimeter options. When we look at the spec sheets of these compared to the Pursuit Pros, they're very, very similar. The swing weights are similar. The twist weights are also very similar. The twist weight on the EX 6.0 is actually a little bit better than the Pursuit Pro, so that was interesting to note. And then the weight balance on the Max is actually a little bit lighter than the Pro version, so there's some benefits there leaning towards these versus the Pros. But the big question is, do they play similar, and is the face going to give us the same spin production as the Pursuit Pros? So let's go put these on the court and see how they play.
After playing and drilling with the paddles a few times, here are my thoughts on how they played. First, I'll talk about how they play compared to the Pro line, and then I'll talk about the spin. Playing with them, they felt and performed very similar to the Pro line, and they certainly had the same identity and profile as them, where they gave you easy access to power and pop without a stiff feel. The Pursuits are the only paddles I've played with that aren't thermoformed but still produce the same, and in many cases more power and pop than thermoformed paddles, which is what attracts people to them and makes them unique. I'm putting the Maxx MX 6.0 in the power category like I did with the Pro MX 6.0, and I'm putting the Maxx EX 6.0 in the all-court category like I did with the Pro EX 6.0. They felt and played similar, though there were some subtle differences between them. For some reason, I was able to control the Maxx versions a little bit better than the Pro versions, particularly on drops and when working my way through the transition zone to the net. When I did my power and pop test on the paddles using my radar gun, the results for pop were nearly identical with the Pro line, though there was a small drop-off in power on serves. I actually think that this small drop-off in power is a good thing, and I'm attributing that to the little extra level of control over the Pro line that I was getting. While I admired the Pursuit Pro line for their power and pop they can generate without being thermoformed, I always thought they were trickier to control because of their poppy nature and bouncy feel, but the Maxx versions performed a little better there, and I liked that. Though I gained some extra control, the small loss in power was imperceptible to me when playing. However, I would still describe the Maxx series as being on the poppy and powerful side of things, so they do take some getting used to if you're coming from a more control-oriented paddle, and they just take more skill in general to control and keep the ball down. Once you adjust your stroke to let the paddle do more of the work for you, that little extra it gives you helps simplify your stroke and keeps things tight and effortless, which can help your soft game and consistency. But if you aren't able to make that adjustment, then you will likely be popping the ball up more than normal. When looking at the size of the sweet spots, like the Pro line, they are stable and forgiving paddles and can be described as having oversized sweet spots, particularly the EX 6.0 model. It's very forgiving. On the offensive side, these have more power and pop than most paddles, and when combined with their good stability, it doesn't take as much effort to get the ball to go, even on off-center hits. Counters are strong, blocking hard hit drives is easier, and finishing points is a cinch when the ball is left high. The Maxx MX 6.0 has a heavier swing weight at 125, and it does feel a bit sluggish, though it did feel lighter than the Pro MX 6.0. The EX 6.0 also has a higher swing weight for a standard shape paddle at 117, though it's not outrageous or anything, and it certainly feels manageable and has a good balance to it, though I wouldn't say it's a super fast paddle. Like the Pro line, these are offered in a standard and lightweight option. I do recommend you get the lightweight option since the swing weights on these are naturally higher. I personally wish the EX 6.0 had a longer handle than 5 inches. I like to play two-handed shots, so a longer handle fits my playstyle better and is more comfortable. But I know there are also players who like the shorter 5-inch length because they either put their finger on the paddle or want that maximum amount of paddle surface they can get. But I do think that there are more advantages to longer handles than shorter handles in general. Additionally, while we're talking about handles, These still have that blockier, bigger grip size that the Pro line had. That's 4 3/8 inches in circumference, which is bigger than your typical 4 1/4 inch grip size, so it's something to be aware of. So that's the end of my thoughts on the playtest, and to answer my question at the beginning of whether or not the Maxx versions feel the same and produce the same or similar amount of power and pop as the Pro versions, the answer is yes. Now let's talk about the surface and spin production of the paddles. When you feel the face of the paddle, it doesn't feel the same as many of the raw carbon fiber paddles out there, though it's similar. So I did my spin test and looked at the surfaces under a microscope, and here's what I got. On the left is a picture of the facing material of the Pursuit Pro, the middle is the Pursuit Maxx, and on the right is the Pursuit Ultra. The Pursuit Ultras came out last year and didn't get much traction because of their weak spin production, and were quickly replaced by the Pursuit Pro line. I put an image of the Ultras here because the Maxx looks like a mix of the Ultras and Pro line, and the spin production behaves similarly as well. You don't get as much spin on the Maxx line as you do with the Pro line, but the spin is still good, though it's not great like the Pro line, and it's certainly better than the Ultra paddles. So here's my recommendation. If you like the idea of the bigger power and pop while maintaining that softer feel of a control paddle, then you'll like the Pursuit paddles. Because the Maxx models maintain the unique identity of the Engage Pursuit series, I think they are worth the price of $160 that you get with my discount code if they fit what you're looking for. If you're a spin junkie, then you would prefer the Pro line over the Maxx line, but if you're okay with good spin when everything else about the paddles play very similar to the Pro line, then I say save some money, get the Maxx version instead of the Pro version. I hope Engage makes the Maxx paddles in their thinner 13mm versions like they do with their Pro versions someday, and if Engage is listening to this video, then please make a variation of the EX 6.0 with a longer handle. So that's everything I have for you. Thanks for watching, and I hope it helps. If you decide to pick one up, please use my code 20effect on their website for a 20% discount.